Welcome to today's episode of The Woman in You with Zoe. My guest is a woman whose work has made a significant impact across the globe, from education to activism and spirituality. She's an educator, civil rights leader, visionary, and one of the most influential voices in the African diaspora today. With multiple advanced degrees, including a PhD in theology, human resources development, and humanities, she has used her knowledge and experience to break barriers and champion change in both the academic world and the broader society. She's also a prolific creator, launching initiatives like the Blackwood Worldwide, which merges entertainment and education for societal growth. She continues to inspire through her work with youth development, her leadership in cultural advocacy, and her drive for community empowerment. I'll be introducing my guest to you shortly. My name is Zoe Abubeduado, and this is The Woman in You with Zoe. Stay tuned.
For your Showmax is easy. Just choose your preferred payment method from these easy and convenient options: MTN Momo, Visa or MasterCard, Showmax vouchers at DSTV or GoTV sales agents, or use a promo code. Enter your payment details and hit submit. Showmax. Pay easy, stream easy.
You will come back to The Woman in You with Zoe. Dr. Angela Harris is my guest today, and she'll be telling us more about herself and what she does. But before I do so, I really want to apologize for my hoarse voice today, but it will be audible, and trust me, the conversation is going to be a great one. Now, to talk to Dr. Harris. Hello, thank you so much for being on the show, and it's a pleasure having you.
Greetings and great day, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
I know you're not new to Ghana. What do you love about Ghana?
I love Africa, period. Ghana is like a third home to me, almost trading the place of Nigeria, becoming my second home. I just love people, and my mission is to make Africa great again. So the places where I go, I fit in no matter where it is in Africa, and Ghana just happens to be one of those places.
So where in Ghana have you been to?
I actually haven't been more than Accra. But my plan is to travel abroad Ghana within the next year.
Okay. All right. Have you tried any of our food?
I have. And again, Nigeria is my second home. So, you know, the competition of the jollof rice is there. One thing I was telling someone yesterday, though, and Niger, you know that I love you, but one thing that I notice about Ghana is that every time I walk into a room where the men are, I always smell good stuff. That's the difference between Ghana and Nigeria. A lot of times going to Niger, you smell a lot of musk. You walk in Ghana, you smell a lot of freshness. And I love, you know, fresh cologne on you know, a man when you walk in the presence of men. So that's the difference. You know, I had to get a little laughter out of that on yesterday.
Great. So on this show, we usually speak to our guests and they tell us about growing up. I know you're originally from Columbus, but now in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
All right. So how was your childhood like?
So this is what I can say. My lifetime story is called Faith in a Struggle. Okay. So if you hear in between that, you know that there's some things that has happened in my life that have been very challenging. But in the midst of it, the faith has always been there to be who I was already predestined to be. And I walk in that every day. So as a child, believe it or not, I was very, what's the word that I want to use? Because right now I'm very, extroverted. I was very introverted as a child. Very intelligent, but because of different traumatic issues that was going on in my lifetime, from rape to molestation to just being different, not understanding my spiritual gifts and no one to really cultivate it, even though I was in church 7 days a week sometimes. Just didn't understand why I was so different than everyone else. And so as a child, it was very challenging. I tell people all the time, that's why I have a passion for children, because I know that my childhood was some of the most challenging years of my life.
How did your upbringing shape who you have become today? Your upbringing, being a child, how did it shape you?
Let me say this. Shouts out to my mother. My mother, an excellent woman of God. My mother is a cardiopulmonary, well, she just retired 3 years ago.
Okay.
So she was a cardiopulmonary surgeon. So financially, we didn't want for much. Unfortunately, because my mother was at work all of the time, there was things that was able to happen in my life that was not my mess, but somebody else's mess that became, what could have defeated me. But now it's my victory, because I know that the end result of it is that we go through things in life, not for ourselves, but to help other people. So my childhood, again, we had all of the things that most people didn't have, because my mother, she worked so hard. But why did she work so hard? That's what the question is. She worked so hard because she was trying to get over the pain that she endured. My grandfather shot and killed my grandmother in front of my mom at 16 and then killed himself in front of her. So that challenge was the first challenge, and 3 years later comes me. So her in her healing phases thought that she met her Casanova, which is my father, only to find out that he was married with 20 plus children and didn't even inform my mother of it. So she still made a decision to continue and her pregnancy, and now you have the messenger angel. That's what Angela means.
At what point did you decide you're going to break free from all this trauma?
I think I decided that my whole life. And I think the reason why is because in the midst of all of the trauma, even in times when I can remember times of laying in my bed and I felt demons holding me down, and they would hold me to the point that it was so much, but there was always something that came and set me free and rescued me. And that was the light of God in me. So, knowing that, that's what has kept me. And again, shouts out to my mother, because one thing that, what God told me is that no matter what your mom ever did to fail you in your eyes, because she was at work and stuff all the time. I was around people that she thought that she could trust and all of that. But whatever she did in her eyes, in your eyes to fail you, one thing she did at a very young age is she introduced you to me. And so when she introduced me to the Father that gives us life every day, she saved my life, even in the midst of all the turmoil that I would have to experience.
That was the next question I was going to ask, because you speak a lot about God, spirituality, the Father. And can you tell us more about your life when it comes to, being spiritual and being a Christian?
Everything that I do, of course I live in the flesh, so I'm not perfected. Let me go back just a little bit. I had 5 children about time I was 20, and my 6th child when I was 24. Everyone told me what I couldn't do, what I was not going to be able to do, but I surpassed them all in education and the world of just being. I don't just exist in this world, I live, and a lot of people get stuck in that. So the reason why that ability came was because, again, my mother introduced me to God, and the way that she introduced me to God was to remind me that my accountability is always going to be to the one that gives me life every day. Always gave me the understanding that her relationship with him, somebody else's relationship with him, is not my focus, but my personal relationship. So throughout my life, with all of the challenges and things that I've been through, that's what has kept me. And it's kept me mentally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, and emotionally.
Wow. You had 5 kids.
6.
Before 20.
Mm-hmm.
And by 24, you had a 6th child. At that young age, how were you able to take care of, because raising children is not an easy task or job. How were you able to do all this?
So this is what I was saying. When you go through trauma as a child, as you grow, sometimes you look for love in all the wrong places. Both of my children's fathers, because I have the 5 by the 1, and then I have 1 daughter after, they were both big time drug dealers. They were in the world. My 5 children's father owned one of the biggest record labels in the US, and it was very challenging because I always felt like I was in a box that I wanted to bust out of. It was something that didn't allow me to belong, even though I was existing at that time in that world. That world could not hold me. It couldn't incarcerate me. And there's a lot of things in life that have tried to incarcerate me. But when God said that many are called but few are chosen, all of the chosen ones, if you go back and you read the Bible, they've all been through something. They're not someone that had a silver spoon in their mouth and never went through something. No, every last one of them had a reason that they had to figure out who God was in their life.
So how did your experiences help you bring up these children to be, how old are they, by the way?
I'm 51. My oldest daughter is 35. My next to the oldest daughter, she'll be 34 April the 2nd. I have one that will be 33 March the 13th. I have one that will be 32 May the 6th. Then my only son, he's born March the 15th. He'll be 31. And my youngest daughter is 27.
Wow. So how did your experiences help you bring up these lovely children that you have?
Now, one thing that I will say, even as a young mother, I didn't play with my children, period. I didn't allow for my age to become a determination of my children being disrespectful. All of the things that I experienced, I didn't want them to experience. So I made sure that that didn't happen. And one of the reasons that I'm probably as blessed as I am today is because I knew how to treat my mother. And I accepted nothing less from my own children.
Yeah.
I raised them. They couldn't just go places and spend the night. All of the other children wanted to come to our house because my children had material things. You understand?
Yeah.
I was one of the youngest mothers. Matter of fact, the youngest mother out of all of my children's friends. But all of the older mothers allowed their children to come to my house. So we had the Last Supper table, the one with about 10, 12 to 15 people every day. And we always, my mission was always to pour into those children to let them know that the bum road was not acceptable.
Yeah.
The bum road is doing whatever you want to do, being in this world, in the drug game, because my experiences allowed for me to speak against it, because there was something in me that it never it was never comfortable for me.
Wow, really inspired by how far you have come and what you've been able to achieve. Now, there are a lot of young women who are still going through some of the things that you mentioned, and even with your experience, I'm sure there's somebody who is able to relate. If that person is watching you right now, what advice will you give to that person to encourage that person to be better?
If it is to be, it's up to me. Always understanding that you can't be accountable for somebody else. The only one that you can be accountable for is you,
yourself,
first and foremost. If you can't even love yourself, how can you love somebody else?
Yeah.
And then you have to go into what is love, because the definition of love to people, they got it all messed up. Love is making sure that what you were born for is manifested with the allowance of a God infestation, meaning that every day that we wake up, there's nothing that we done to wake us up.
Yeah.
So the one that gives us life every day has to be the first and foremost that we give praise and thanks to.
Great. So I'll be talking more about your life after giving birth, because I know you have 3 PhDs. In fact, in terms of academia, you really did a lot for yourself. So I'll be finding out more on how you were able to achieve that. And did you have any support at all?
My mother was my biggest supporter.
Wow.
Let me say this.
Your mom,
my mom
has really been your backbone.
Absolutely. Strong Black woman. Strong. Understanding that her turmoil of seeing her own mother. Now let me say this. My mother had a relationship with her father as well.
Okay.
So her mother and father in that household, for that to happen to her, was very traumatic. My grandfather literally took my mother out the day, showed her how to balance a checkbook, took her to the store, showed her how to shop, how to do this, talked to her about the birds and the bees, if you know what I mean, about men. And then she think it's her sweet 16 birthday thing that she finally get to spend with her daddy, but it was because my grandmother was going to leave him. My grandfather had a whole nother family on another street, so my grandmother was going to leave him, and he couldn't handle that. My grandfather and my grandmother had 8 children, but he also had 3 other children on the next street by another woman without my grandmother knowing it. When she found out, she was just going to leave, and that's what ended her life. And so my mother's trials and tribulations, ever since I was in her belly, she worked in the hospital. She didn't stop until I was 48 years old 3 years ago.
Okay. Oh.
And the thing is that her working in that hospital was a direct reflection of what she felt she could have done for her mother if she would have known CPR. She felt like she could have saved her life. So every day that she went to the hospital, what God revealed to me was another torment of hoping that she don't lose somebody that she could have saved. Point. You cannot focus on saving people. The only thing that you can focus on is giving them the information to be saved. You can't hold it personal, because if so, you'll always be broken down and have mental anguish, and then all of that leads to stress, and stress is the #1 killer. It's not dis-ease like people think, but it's stress. And so all of that to be said, it's reflected on me in a way that it has allowed me to be strong. Now I'm gonna say this: me, my mother, and my sister, we're all born the end of July to beginning of August. My brother's the only oddball. He was born in February.
Okay.
And so, that's a strength right there. They call us the lions, and I'm a real lioness in God's kingdom, as well as just my character. Period. I love my cubs, and they don't even have to be the ones that I've birthed. Anybody that I've been assigned to, I love them, but I also understand when it's time to wean them off and send them on.
Wow. Dr. Angela Harris is my guest today on The Woman in You with Zoe, and she's been telling us about her childhood. We'll take a break here. When we come back, she'll be telling us about her career and leadership journey. And I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation so far and you want to know more about her life. Stay tuned.
Life is a celebration of moments, big and small.
The sun is scorching, I'm feeling the heat.
With Piva Drink, every moment becomes a refreshing celebration. From the beach to your home, in every corner of your world, Piva Drink adds a burst of refreshment.
Give me Piva cocktail and tangerine.
Celebrate every moment with Piva Drink. Refreshment for every occasion. Piva drink, a taste you will love.
P for Piva.
This advert is FDA approved.
You're welcome back to the show. My name is Zoe Abubeidwado, and Dr. Angela Harris is my guest. She was telling us about her childhood, very rough one, but she managed to pick herself up. It's now time to delve into her career, what she has achieved for herself, despite all the challenges that she faced growing up. So, Dr. Harris, it's really inspiring, and I believe a lot of young women out there are really encouraged. I mean, someone who is going through similar challenges is encouraged by what you're saying today. I want to delve into your career, leadership. You've attained multiple degrees. Mm-hmm. At what point, at what age did you start attaining these degrees, to the extent that you have 3 PhDs? And that's a lot of school time. How did you do all this?
So what I'm going to tell you is going to be unbelievable. I already revealed to you that my children's fathers, the lifestyle that they were in.
Right.
When I was 25 years old, I was falsely accused of a crime, something that I didn't do. Before that, I was already in school, in college. As a matter of fact, I lived off of my student loans to take care of me and my children from the beginning, because not being educated was not going on. And you know, my mother's children, no, that's not happening. It was a
no.
And so I was falsely accused of a crime in 1999, and I received a 17-year sentence.
Ooh.
I didn't understand how God could even allow something like that to happen. And it was during the time that I was in church all the time. I've already put aside my children's father's lifestyles and separated myself from it. I didn't understand it. And so I was sentenced to 17 years in prison.
Wow.
3 years day for day. Now, let me walk you through this journey. I get there. While you're in prison, when you first go, they give you a person that you see, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, because they need to know what inmates that they have, what their mindset is like. If they get ready to come in there and kill people, or if they're going to be okay, and that's how they class you. But when I walked in that room, there was this little man, his name is Mr. Christian, and he looked like a little elf. He was only like 4 feet tall. He was I don't know if he was Caucasian or if he was Spanish, but he looked kind of different because he had ears. He literally looked like an elf that you would see on TV. But when I went to go sit down in front of him, he looked at me, and I seen a light in his eyes. It's like his eyes lit up, like really, like it's something that you would just see on TV. And he looked at me and he said, "I don't know why they have you in here. You can tell me what's wrong with me before I can tell you what's wrong with you." And I looked at him and my eyebrows raised, because what he didn't know is that that's where one of my struggles were, is in life. And that struggle was being anointed and gifted and foreseeing things and knowing, and God talking to me, and not understanding that the things that I seen most people didn't see, the things that I heard most people didn't hear. And then when I would speak things, it would actually happen. And I actually got scared because I didn't know what it was, because even being in church every week, 5 and 6 times a week, no one was in there to cultivate that gift. I realized, because I was very angry, I was very homicidal, which is one of the generational spirits that passed from my grandfather killing my grandmother. The other one was suicidal. I've never been suicidal. I never wanted to hurt myself. I felt like so many people were hurting me already. Why would I want to hurt myself? But that homicidal spirit, anyone that wanted to have ever done anything to me, I literally, in my mind, plotted out their death. And so in the midst of all of that, God knew that he was getting ready to call me to ministry. So he needed me to literally sit down away from everyone, including my children, because I've always been there for everybody else. I've always been, the one that everybody else around me, I want to make sure that they're okay. But I wasn't okay. And so he needed me to go and heal. In the midst of it, I went in there. I was a chaplain's assistant. That's how it started out.
No.
And as a chaplain's assistant, the chaplain used to come and always ask me to pray for her. And I'm like, well, why aren't you praying for me? Then we started a gospel choir. I was the leader of the choir. So it was like everything that God had given me as a child in the church, I brought it into a prison. After God told me that you might have missed your behavior, but your purpose will never change. And then he showed me that the gifts that he gave me and the anointing that he had on my life, it wasn't to murder people in the physical realm, but that if I didn't do what he told me, that I could murder them in the spiritual realm. And I didn't understand that until he gave me Ezekiel chapter 3. And that says that when I tell you to say something, you say it. For those who receive it, that's life for them. For those who reject it, that's death for them. But if you don't tell them, then their blood is on your hands. You're a murderer. The enemy wanted you to kill physically. But the only way that you murder people is not by not telling them what I tell you to tell them. And that's been my life ever since then. 3 years later, after I got that, they called me back to court. I fought my own case against the I was my own attorney, fought my own case against the #1 prosecutor in Columbus, Ohio. Won. They had to set me free. The next week I answered my call to the ministry and I started preaching all over the world until God told me to come from among them. So in the midst of that, I went to school. My first PhD is in theology/divinity. My bachelor's started out in business, which I already had my bachelor's working on my master's when I went to prison in 1999. Okay. When I was there, I was able to still do some of my classes. When I tell you that it wasn't like jail for me, when I tell you that it was literally like college for me, the favor that was on my life in that prison cell, the officers that was there, I gave some of them their first Bibles. I would order them, get them engraved with their names on them, and send them to them. So the whole time that I was there, it was like God was not only healing me from me, but he was preparing me for him in his kingdom. So when I was released in 2001, everything, and let me say this, when I was locked up, my mother took all of my children. My children never seen a system or nothing. Great. She had 6 of me to deal with and 6 children. Wow. All of them a little bit different. So that lets you know that there's a lot to me. Yeah. There's a soft side, there's a hard side, there's a medium side, there's a fun side, and there's a serious side. Yeah. But all of them add up to being who I am in him. And so when I was released and I decided I wanted to continue my education more. I already had, my master's degree was almost finished. I decided to go get my PhD. My first PhD is in theology with a concentration of divinity. I learned at that time that the people that was teaching me what they were supposed to be teaching me about God didn't even believe in what they were teaching. They also utilized me to teach their class more than they taught their class because they didn't know. God said his people perish because of lack of knowledge. Right. So that was one of my journeys spiritually, to start teaching his people. So when I go and I become a minister in training in the church, they have me teaching the elders and the other ministers. And I'm like, do they not know that I need prayer? Do they not know that outside of this gift that God has given me, I'm still human? Do they not understand that I have 5 children and my children's fathers is back and forth in jail all the time? Do they not understand that I need me time sometime? But they always want to ask me to pray for me and for them. And so the next time I went to school was shortly after. I'm like, you know what? They always told me what I couldn't do, and I could do anything I put my mind to. I've always had that drive that I can do anything that I put my mind to. So I went back to school for human resources development. My bachelor's degree is in business. All right. My master's degree is in social. My first one is in social work with a concentration of education. My third one is in counseling, with Christian counseling as a initiative. All right. So then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to run my own business, because I went to school for business, because believe it or not, Donald Trump, when I was 15 years old, I went to one of his conferences.
Okay.
And he's the first person that made me want to own a business. Oh. Although I don't agree with all of the stuff that's going on in America, with the Democratic or the Republican side to it, I don't agree with none of it. I'm on God's side. Yeah. I don't put myself in position to, I'm very connected to the whole political arena, but I don't put myself in position to follow any of them. So, but one thing that I can say is that Donald Trump was a businessman, and he made me want to be a businesswoman. Wow. So that business degree, I said, you know what, before I open my business, I need to know every side of the human resources part. So, because you hear all of these stories like Selena, I don't know if you know the movie Selena. Selena is a movie where it was a music artist and her manager was able to take all her money and stuff and didn't end up killing her because Selena didn't know no better. So I said, you know what? I need to go for human resources development.
Before you go on with that, do you mind sharing it with us what business you were into?
Okay, well, I have several. If you know anything about taxes, I think that y'all have taxes here in Ghana. I'm a tax preparer or an accountant. Okay. So I do taxes like for people at the end of the year when it's time for them to tally up all of the income that they've made over the years and what they owe the government. I'm the person that they go to. Like right now it's tax season. Right before I walked in here, I had 3 people, their taxes dropped. Okay. So my fees that, that they had to pay to me for doing their taxes, they were trying to make sure that they got deposited to me.
Right.
My nonprofit and for-profit is Black People United. Everything that I do is surrounded by making the community better. So Black People United Global Network, I have a media hub. I have a radio station. I have a television network. I do a lot of things in graphics. When I tell you that I went to school for human resources development, I wanted to know every part of it because every part of it was a part of me. Although I don't want to do it all, I need to know it all. So I do that. I also, I go around speaking. I speak, I go a lot of places and I speak. If you would ask me what my career is being about my father's business. Whatever area that he needs me in, that's where I'm at. And a lot of it, it comes to the regular sources of business, kingdom business, and being about your father's business. That's what our conference is. It's going to be coming up here in Georgia. But I know that we'll talk about that soon.
Right. So still with your schooling and some achievements that you have, attained for yourself. You've spoken about your 3 PhDs and what you've done. Now, I want to move a step further. You are the first woman president of the Southern Christian Fellowship. How do you feel stepping into that role?
The first president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is Dr. Martin Luther King's organization. It was very, very, how can I say it? When you're in a male chauvinistic organization, but they see a woman and they know that she's powerful. They know that she has the ability and they want it. But then when they see her step into it, they're threatened by it. Because she sees, not only in the natural, but she sees in the spirit. So she sees all of the things that's going on that shouldn't go on. It was very challenging. I've made history on several occasions, and that's just one of them.
All right. You mind sharing the others?
Yes, I've made history. I'm the first Black woman to ever receive 3 proclamations in 3 states in a week.
Wow.
That was New York, New Jersey, and Georgia all in 1 week. Wow. I also was the first woman vice president of the United Coalitions for Humanities. It's so much.
So much. All right.
Yeah, it's so much.
Great. So you were talking about how you felt stepping into that role and how others accepted or otherwise your role that you had stepped into.
Yes. See, the thing is when I stepped in that role, I stepped out of it not too long after because a light bulb came on. My organization is Black People United. And let me talk about that. Black is not our color. It's an acronym. for beautiful living ancestors controlling kingdom. The breakdown of that is God gives me a lot of acronyms. So if you hear me saying acronyms, it's because every time God gives me an acronym, that's how I know he's speaking to me. So beautiful living ancestors controlling kingdom. See, God said, let the dead bury the dead. So we're not talking about this force of witchcraft that people use to say that they're praying to the ancestors. You can't pray to someone that can't even wake you up. It doesn't make sense. So, but beautiful is your heart. You had to have the heart after God's people and the heart after the Father in order to have a beautiful heart. That's the capital B. If you can't, you can't be black. They use black in such a negative thing.
Right.
And so everything that God uses for me is to turn it into something positive.
Right.
Living ancestor, LA in black. You're a living ancestor. Everything that you do, when you walk through somewhere, your light should follow you, and somebody should be able to see your light as you go. We have people that come after us, people that we're responsible for, people that we're accountable for. They should be able to see a light in you, period.
Yeah.
That makes you an ancestor. An ancestor is just accountability of being who you are for those who follow you. Controlling your kingdom, that's what the whole Emergence conference is about.
Right.
The Black Kings and Queens Worldwide, I'm the founder and the overseer. Again, black, the acronym, controlling kingdom. The kingdom that you have to control is your God-given divine purpose that was predestined for you before you were even here. If you don't tap into that, you're not living, you're just existing.
Yeah.
So that's what black is. Beautiful living ancestors controlling kingdom, taking accountability for what you were brought here on earth to do.
Great. So my guest is still Dr. Angela Harris, and we're having great conversation here and what she has achieved so far. We'll take another break here. When we return, she'll be telling us about her activism as well and her advocacy. And then we'll spend more time on Blackwood. It's Blackwood
Worldwide.
We'll be spending more time to speak about that as well. Do stay tuned. My name is Zoe Abubeidwado.
It's time for the Swesco 66th anniversary celebrations and alumni homecoming. The dates: Friday 21st of March 2025 through till Sunday the 23rd of March 2025. Now on Friday at 10 a.m. at the school complex, How I Got There. At 1:30 p.m. at the forecourt of the school complex, Alumni Interhouses Gary Soakings Experience. At 6 p.m. on campus, Candlelight Procession. At 8 p.m. at the school complex, Alumni Roll Call and Welcomes Jam with the Kwampa Band. On Saturday at 8 a.m. at the Esther Hansen Grounds, Speech and Prize Giving Ceremony. At 1 p.m. the commissioning of the new Masters Flats. At 1:45 p.m. at the school complex, Alumni All-Year Groups Lunch. At 7 p.m. at the school complex, Alumni Dance Party with Inchin Chin Band. Then on Sunday at 9 a.m., Thanksgiving service at the Esther Hansen Grounds. It's the 66th anniversary celebrations and alumni homecoming of Swesco. Semper Cum Optimus, always with the best.
Thank you for staying with us on The Woman in You with Zoe. Dr. Harris is my guest today, and she was explaining Blackwood Worldwide. She's explained the black. The wood has an explanation as well, I believe, Dr. Harris.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, if you heard what I stated in the beginning of my journey, I stated that my children's father owned a record label.
Yes.
So I've been exposed to the music industry and the entertainment industry from being a young woman. Hollywood has distracted, destroyed, and dismantled our people.
How?
Evil. People in Hollywood, and see, the thing is that I find in Africa doesn't understand what really goes on in the wilds of America. America has a lot of evil to it. They call it the land of the free, but it's really the land of the incarcerated, because everybody's trying to be something that they're not. And I'm just keeping it 100. I've been in the midst of the entertainment world for a long time, so I've seen a whole lot of stuff. Entertainment in church, because one thing is for certain is that our people, no matter where we are in the world, we love to be entertained. Entertainment, though, also comes with falsehood a lot of times. It comes with pretending to be what's not. If you listen to a lot of the music, it's a lot of people that speak a lot of stuff that they don't even live. But that's what has destroyed a lot of our people. Is listening to that, absorbing it, and now they're living it out. Something that somebody else say that they're not even living. So the Blackwood Worldwide is the new entertainment industry that's drawn God's people back to him through spirit-tainment and edutainment.
Right.
By the way of entertainment. Wood is a acronym. I told you that black is beautiful, living ancestors controlling kingdoms. The Blackwood is teaching heavenly ebonics, beautiful living ancestors control kingdoms, warning obedience, overcoming destruction.
Warning obedience.
Warning obedience,
overcoming
destruction. So if you heard, I told you that when my light bulb clicked on and I became the opposite of the homicidal mindset that the enemy wanted me to have, because people hurt me and I wanted the ones that hurt me gone, into the transition of God showing me the only way that I really hurt people is by not telling them what he tells me to tell them. I've warned obedience for people to overcome destruction. And so the Blackwood Worldwide is just that, teaching heavenly ebonics, teaching a heavenly language, warning obedience, overcoming destruction. Knowing that the end result is that people need to be educated and they need to be spirit-tained, meaning that they need to understand the necessity of them being connected to the divine, the one that gives them life every day. In music, in film, by the way, I was a ghostwriter for 12 years. And I've accomplished a lot in film and music, and I don't really talk about it a lot because it doesn't really interest me. Although now that God has given me the Blackwood Worldwide, I have 9 films that I'm sitting on, and I'm also executive producing them. I'm working on some now. So one of them called The Eyes of Destiny, the other one called The Heart of a Dope Man. I just have a lot of different films. So the Blackwood Worldwide is the new entertainment industry, but it's bringing back God's people to him by, the same way that the enemy had us fighting against each other and wanting to kill each other and all of that. God is using that same portal to bring people back to him through remembering what we've been through, but understanding who took us through it.
So you said you're sitting on 9 films?
Yes.
Have you produced any yet? Is any of them up?
We're working on them now.
You're working on them. But when was this Blackwood Worldwide instituted? When did it come up?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay.
Yes.
And within that 2 years, you're still producing. Are you still producing?
Yes. I've done a lot.
All right.
For other people.
Okay.
Now I'm doing it for the Blackwood Worldwide, which is God's kingdom people doing practical things to draw his people back to him. Now, what I think that you've seen too was the rebirth of the Black nation. I'm the founder, which is an agenda. for Black, the acronym that I gave you, people, to pull things together in order for this world to change. I tell people all the time, I'm a world changer. I bring you from the world to the kingdom, knowing that thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. And that's my reality.
Right. You also mentioned that you were a ghostwriter for 12 years. What kind of things were you writing, and where were you publishing? Film. And
you probably watch some of it quite often. But because of being a ghostwriter, that's what you are, you really can't talk about it. But what I can say is some of the things that you think that some of these big Hollywood movie producers have done is my work.
Okay. And because you were a ghostwriter, you really don't want to speak about some of the things you did or the work you did.
No, you can't, because
I get it.
When they buy you, when they buy it, they buy it.
I get it.
And so, but what I can say is, as I'm producing my own films now, you'll get it. And people that know me, they know, but I just can't get on public and talk about it. They can try to sue me for everything that I have. Even though it may be little, I know that I'm going to be very, very wealthy soon.
Great. You've spoken about film. What about music? Because I think you have a passion for music as well.
I do have a passion for music. I started out singing. I sung with a few groups, and I told you my children's father owned a record label. I used to write all the artists' music. As a matter of fact, when we come back in April, I'm bringing Bingy Blaze with me from Jamaica. My brother, Kevin K.O. Cates, 30 million #1 record selling producer. He'll be in Ghana with me next month at the Emergence conference. He has a whole album on men's mental health through hip hop called The Human, Humen project. So some of those videos I've produced, and the Africa Great Again, which Bingy Blaze, coming in from Jamaica, he has a song that's for Africa. You got to make Africa great again. That's what my whole conference is about, emerging us. And where the reason I got the revelation for that is that those who were last will be first, and those who were first will be last. Africa was first. Every account of anything that you found first was in Africa. Everything that you find last is going to be in Africa. And so if you know anything about the word in Revelations 22:12-13, it says, behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to every man according what his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the what? The last. Africa was first. Africa will be last. So emerging us is bringing us back to the roots of where we came from, so that we can understand the destiny that was already before we even existed. So the Blackwood Worldwide, everything that I do, the Rebirth of the Black Nation, my organization, because the Black People United Global Network is my organization, but my orderization is the Black Kings and Queens Worldwide. We're the movers and shakers. We're the real kings and queens. The movers and shakers of this world that understand that divine purpose, divine destiny, predestined purpose, and predestined everything that was already before we even came here. That's our responsibility. Right. If you're not walking in that, then there's one more word that I want to quote. They came to him in the last days and they said, Lord, Lord, I did this in your name, and I did that. I prophesied in your name. I did. Man, get away from me, you workers of iniquity. I never even knew you. How can I know somebody that's walking in something that I didn't divinely assign them to? All right. And so that's what this whole thing is about. Yeah, it's all about educating, spirit-cating or spirit-taining people, giving them...
Who are your target audience?
Everybody. Everybody needs to know their purpose. Everybody needs to know that you cannot just exist on this in this earth and think that the end result is going to be heaven. Everybody has to know that you go through hell right here on earth, but the fire comes from you not knowing who the source of light is. So the target audience is everybody, because we live in the last and final days.
All right, I'm asking about target audience because we know some movies are rated. So we have children's movies, we have adult movies. Are you doing one specifically for?
I won't be the only producer.
Great.
I'm a producer of many things,
All right.
but I don't do this I can't do it by myself. If I did, I wouldn't be able to be here in Ghana today. It's people. You heard.
But is this something you're thinking about?
Children, of course. I believe that children are our future. Teenagers, of course. Some of the most strategic and challenging years of people's life are their teenage years because they're really trying to find themselves.
Right.
Adults, some of them are children. So it's not an age thing, it's a maturity thing. And that's what I'll say.
Do you have a passion for the youth? Do you have a passion for young people? And do you organize workshops, say for the Black community, for the society at large? Is this something that you've been doing?
So my whole vision and my mission is to build a Black house everywhere. The B period, L period, A period, C period, K period house everywhere. They have the White House in America. I need the Black house all over the world. No. Right. And the Black house is a community, a big community of everything that we need in order to be who we're designed to be. So we have the plan of a techno hub. We have the plan of a life skills center. We have our entertainment hub. We have
all right,
the education side of it.
Okay.
I've created a school called the Principles of Blackness Cultural and Wellness Academy. I'm also a divine herbalist. So
divine herbalist.
Yeah, yes. I know how to mix stuff to heal people. And so I have my own line called Drink to Live.
Okay.
And so all of that is being manifested into the school. The school is going to teach mathematics, social studies, science, and reading through the measurement of herbs. Because a lot of people don't understand that herbs are just like pharmaceuticals. You can use too many and it cancels something out and you have a bad reaction to it. So it's teaching the children how to have naturopathic medicine, and when they all finish, they'll all be certified herbalists coming out of the school, 12th grade.
I see. Let's briefly talk about your activism and advocacy. I know you're an advocate for a lot of things, cultural empowerment. Just briefly talk to us about that.
I think that I talked to you about that through everything that I've said, because it all reverts back to having a personal relationship with the Father. However, activism, I believe in justice. I told you that I was falsely accused of a crime.
Great. Do you mind sharing with us what crime that was?
It was a white-collar crime. What had happened was there was someone that I was attached to. She was older than me. She had a whole, they were older than me, so they were doing things that they shouldn't do. I connected her with one of my cousins. My cousin worked at Vital Statistics. Vital Statistics is where you get your birth certificates and stuff from. She ended up with a birth certificate stamper. At the time, like I told you, the drugs and all of that stuff that was going on, they were bringing people back and forth, so they were making false IDs. But they got caught with the birth certificate stamper. And when they got caught with that, my name came up. And because I would not open my mouth to make them do their work, they wanted to charge me of it. So the end result is I knew that I was going to be set free anyway because I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't even something serious, but they felt that I was very smart, intelligent, and dangerous minded. Yeah. So, that's what happened. I don't really even talk about it a lot. You can't even pull it up anymore because when I was set free from that serious situation, they had to also clear my name on everything because I wasn't guilty. But I do tell people this. I'm not saying that I ain't never been guilty of nothing. I just wasn't guilty of that. Because I would lie if I said that I ain't never done nothing. All of us have done something in life that we shouldn't have done.
We're wrapping up the conversation. You've had an extraordinary career. You've impacted many lives. What legacy would you want to leave?
Well, the legacy that I want to leave is what's coming up here in Ghana, the Emergence Conference. We're traveling worldwide right now with the Emergence Conference. The Emergence Conference is a 4-day conference. The first day is a entertainment gala. So, and I'm telling you, you need to be there. It's going to be so impactful. It's bringing back the power of everything that we need in order for us all to be okay through edutainment, spiritainment, but by the way of entertainment. So we have my brother's Human Project. We have Bingy Blaze coming in. We got some Ghanaian artists coming in. We got a comedian. We having a fashion show. This is all in one day. The Emergence Conference, but it's all clean.
Right.
All clean but powerful. The next day we have the Black Kings and Queens Worldwide Summit. That summit is education about not only emerging us spiritually, but also through the economic values of bringing Africa, making Africa great again. That evening we have the Black Kings and Queens Worldwide induction, where we're inducting people into their purpose, them giving and committing back to their God-given purpose that was predestined for them. And then the next day is my awards show, and that's what we haven't talked about. The Black I Am International Awards has been around for 9 years now. It's traveled all over the world. I've had plenty of dignitaries, ministers, and all of that coming from Nigeria and Ghana and different places of Africa to America to my award show. Now I'm bringing it to you. So the last day is a crusade where they're putting together several churches for me to bring the message to them on that Sunday.
Thank you so much for being on the show. But if someone wants to reach out to you to know more about the conference, how do they do so?
We have the Black Kings and Queens Worldwide on VIP Socio. That's VIP SOCIO. They can contact me, Dr. Angela Harris. That's 1-404-944-8544. They actually will be able to go into the blackwoodworldwide.com. We're updating the site right this moment. And it's going to be at the UPSA Auditorium on the 17th through the 19th of April here in Ghana.
All right. Thank you so much. We didn't have time to speak about your journalism and what you do, and I mean how different it may be from Ghana, and well, but hopefully another time we'll get you on the show.
Absolutely, I would love to come
more
back.
About some of the things that you have done in Africa and the globe as a whole. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you so much too. The only thing that if I could say anything else is that I am the one that gives out the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Awards from the White House at my awards show. And I also have my own Black House Awards too. So this is not just a regular award show. It's giving honor to those who really deserve honor for what they've done for other people.
Great. Thank you so much. Dr. Angela Harris was my guest on today's episode of The Woman in You. My name is Zoe Abubedu Ado. Many thanks for watching. Stay tuned to Channel 1 TV.